One of the mostly used software through Windows or Microsoft accounts is Excel. The fame isn't out of nowhere. It is indeed as featureful as any software can possibly get. There are a bunch of us who come across advanced Excel features without having a thorough knowledge on the basics. Instead of being scared of the complexity, how about watching this video to enter a new journey for your technical skill growth? Hello there, this is Farihatul Mim from Exceldemy, your one-stop for Excel blog posts, discussion forum, templates and VBA related answers. We will open an Excel file from our default Windows 11. There we will discuss Excel basics focusing on the interface of the software, tabs and some miscellaneous options for higher productivity. We will show this using Excel 365. You can use any other available Excel versions as well. Let's get down to the video. To begin with, we need to launch Excel 365 first. For that, you can find it in your Start menu if you have pre-installed Excel, or you can even find it in Search menu, writing Excel. Under Best Match, you will find all your application related to Excel. Clicking on Open, you will get your tool. A subtle launch window from Microsoft 365. Now, in case you don't have a pre-installed Excel in your computer or you want to try another version, you can easily do that from the official Microsoft website. You just need to download it and install. Now, from our Excel window, we can see from the top left, Home tab. Under the Home tab, we can add blank workbook. Note that workbooks are like expense tracking books in Excel, where you can add pages as much as you need to work with your data. There are many other templates that are easy to get and modify from the New tab. The Open tab is to import any recent Excel files. Account is for your account information. You can choose Office background as different types of background or no background. For Office theme, you can choose any different color. Let's choose white. Let's go to Home tab. The Home section allows you to open recent files from this tab. If we hover our cursor on this, we can see Share and Pin menu. Let's click on Pin. And in the Pin section, we can see both of them. If we unpin them, then we have one. Shared with me will be the files if anybody using an Microsoft account shares an Excel file with you. Let's go along with adding blank workbook. Let's start talking about the interface first. Here, the topmost bar is called Quick Access Toolbar. On the left, we can see Excel icon, then autosave mode on or off. It helps to work. It's for save. You can also use Ctrl S to save your file. Now this is undo option to undo any action and redo action after doing undo. Now here is a small drop down. If we click on it, we can see we can customize our quick access toolbar. If we add different options, say sort ascending, it will add the icon here. If we right click on it and select remove from quick access toolbar, it will be removed. If we go to more commands, we will get other options to add within the quick access toolbar apart from the given ones. Next is the workbook name, which is book 1 by default. If we click on it, we can change the name. Let's change the name to Excel Basics. And as a location, let's save that to Documents, Save. On the search bar, you can search for features, action, text, help, and etc. Let's type delete. Now we can see that all deleting Excel features are present here. Now on the right, your signed in account name, minimize, screen position, close window. Our next section to be discussed is the ribbon. Now each of these sheets are called worksheets. As we had said that each workbook can have as many as pages as we want, the pages are called sheets here. And for all the sheets, quick access toolbar and the ribbons are remain constant. Other parameters will be changed as we change our worksheets. The ribbon consists of multiple tabs having multiple functions within them. File tab gets you to section from the start. Home tab gets you a lot of features. This collection is on the ribbon. If we right click on the ribbon, we can see that there are 3 options. So we can hide our quick access toolbar or even show it, or we can collapse the ribbon or click any of it, click on this drop down, choose always show ribbon, which leaves us to our second option, customize the ribbon. Clicking on it, we get the Excel options window. From the Customize Ribbon tab, you can see you can choose commands from popular commands or all commands, or you can organize your tabs. Most of the times, your Excel version may not add all of the available tabs initially. You can enable them by Customize the Ribbon. Here, we can see some of them are added with tick mark and some of them are not. If we click on Developer and unclick on Automate, we will be getting the checked tabs and removed the unchecked tabs. We can even change their positions. Let's change formulas above, right after Home tab. Even the categories can be changed. Let's say clipboard to be after number category. Let's see how it looks. Okay, you can see that the tab arrangement and the category arrangement within Home tab changed. Before going into the detailed discussion of the ribbon, let's see what the inside of our worksheet looks like. You can see here are a lot of small rectangles. Each of these rectangles are called cells. Here, row numbers are denoted with numbers and columns are denoted with alphabets. You can see a small triangle on the top left corner. If you click on it, you can see all the cells are selected here. Now let's select this cell. You can see column B and row 2 highlighted, since the cell is member to both of them. Which brings us to the name box, where it's written B2 as the name or address of cell. Let's type Student Tuition Tracker here. The entry is visible within our worksheet. It's visible in another place. Where is it? It's in this long bar which is called Formula bar. This bar will show you entire value or the origin of value for your selected cell reference, even if it's not visible within your worksheet. To save the value, press Enter. Let's go to cell B4. Let's type first name. Use Tab key to go to the right. Last name. Tab semester. Now if we press Escape key right now, we can see that the continuous work will be deleted. Let's type again semester fees. Tab semester numbers. Finally total amount. Now press Shift Tab key to go to left and Shift Enter to go upwards. Now let's click on B4 and keep clicking on our mouse or touchpad till F4. Now this is a cell range and it's named after the first selection, which is B4 within the name box. These are our column headers to represent what the columns will be describing. And this one is our title. Let's add some data on the cells. Now let's copy the rest of the data from a dummy source using Ctrl C and Ctrl V to paste. There we are. Each column here is called field and each row here is called record. Now B4 to A11 is our data set. Now our column headers aren't entirely visible here, right? Let's select all the columns like that and right click on any of them from the context menu, click on column width. Let's select to right 10. Okay, so the width of all the columns is set to 10. Now it's still not visible, right? Let's try to drag one of them so that it gets applied to each of them like that. It's still not visible. Let's try double clicking on the columns that are not visible yet like that. It's out of it. Try the same method on rows and let us know how that attempt turns out for you. Now we will insert a new column. For that, click on column D. Right click on it and from the context menu, click on Insert. There we go. Now let's type admission date in the column header. For the dates, let's copy it from a dummy sheet using Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste. Let's save it. You can do the same process with row. Let's right click on row 9 and click on insert. You can even delete them. Right click on row 9 and click on delete from context menu. There we are. Now you must be wondering, why have we kept the column for total amount blank? So that we can analyze how to write formula with you. Here we will get the total amount by multiplying semester fees and semester number. For that, let's use formula. Start with typing equals, and you can try typing 350 manually, or you can just click on cell E5. Use asterisk sign to denote multiplication, then click on F5, which is your semester number. Enter. So we can see that the total amount of fees for Carla Stevens is $2,100. Now if you go back to the cell and within the formula bar, if we click on it, we can see that E5 is denoted with blue color, so is cell E5 bordered with blue color, and by red color it's written F5, so is the border of cell F5. Excel does this kind of highlighting so that it's easy for us to catch up with the references. Enter. Now if we look at the section just below our worksheet, there is sheet name, which is sheet 1, and there is a plus sign, then there is scroll bar to move left or right. Now if we double click on sheet 1, we can see it's in edit mode. Let's type dataset instead of it. So dataset will be the new name for our worksheet. We can add different worksheet clicking on plus icon like that. We can even delete them. Right clicking on them, delete. As you can see, there are many more options. We will discuss that later on. The lowest portion of our workbook is called status bar. Along with a lot of options, we can see view mode, which is normal, page layout, or page break preview. Using this bar, we can zoom in or zoom out our worksheet. If we right click here, we can see that there are a lot of features. These are for customizing our status bar. Apart from numerous features, we can see that there is check mark for average, count, minimum, sum. These features will be visible if we select a range of cell. Let's select E5 to E11, and we can see that within the status bar we are seeing the average, count of selected values, minimum value within the selection, and sum of total selection. It's fun, right? Here we can see our column header admission date is not visible, so we can just click on the column and double click on the border of column D. Now it looks better. Now we will gradually discuss all the tabs to you. Before that, let's organize the tabs so that it's easier for us to understand. Right click on it and customize the ribbon. Here let's place View tab in between Data and Developer and Page Layout tab after Review. As you have seen by now, we can drag the tabs for orientation without clicking on the arrows. Okay. Now it will be easier for us to understand. In our discussion of the ribbon, Home tab will always come first. Among multiple categories, here our first category is font. If we select our entire data set, and here on the drop down, we can see numerous types of font names. Even if we choose to type something new, we can see the change here as well. Now we want the previous font back. We can choose to press Ctrl Z from our keyboard, or we can just press on the undo font. There we are. If we choose it again, from this drop down we can change the font size, or we can choose gradual increase in font size or gradual decrease from these two buttons. Now let's say we want to select our column headers and make them bold. We can select this key or press Ctrl B from keyboard. For italic, we can choose this icon, or for underlining, this icon. Using this drop down, we can even double underline it. Double underlining is usually used within accounting workbooks. if we select our entire cell range and click on border drop down, we can see there are a whole pack of border options. Let's choose all borders for now. And you can draw borders, draw border grid or erase border, or choose different set of line colors for them as well, or even customize your type of border. Let's choose all borders. Now let's select our column headers and undo using italic and underlining. Now let's select fill color for the cells. Click on the drop down and choose any of the colors. Let's go along with blue accent 5. And here we can choose the font color. We have chosen black here. From the fill color, we can also choose to add no fill. Let's use Ctrl Z to keep our previous selection. Now for the alignment category, we can see the vertical alignments for cell contents, which is top align, middle align, and bottom align. If we click on the small triangle and select all the cells, let's choose middle aligned. Now for our column headers, let's go to horizontal alignment, which has left alignment, center, or right. Let's choose center align. We can change the orientation from this drop down as well. If we click on counterclockwise, it will show us the headings like that. And if we choose rotate text up, it will show us the column headers like that. Now if we click on it again, it will show us the previous selection. Now this button helps us with text direction. From the drop down we can see left to right, right to left, or context. Now if we select the text of these 4 cells and click on increase indent button, we can see that they move to the right side of the cell. If we decrease indent, we can move back to our original position. Now for the last 2 buttons of alignment group, wrap text and merge text, let's select our title. Here, if we choose wrap text, we can see that all the values within our cell are wrapped around one cell. If we click on it again, it will move back to its previous selection. Now if we select B2 to G2 and click on merge and center, we can see that our title is merged along B2, G2 cells and aligned in the center of the cell. And from this drop down, we can merge across or merge cells without center alignment, or unmerge cells as well. Next up is our number category. Here we can see that there are names in these 2 columns, dates, and numbers in column E, F, G. Within the first section of the number category, here is an arrow. This represents different formats. As we can see, the names are generic format. Now these values are date. So we can just click on column D and from the drop down choose short date. Now if we choose long date, we can see that weekday values are added here as well. Let's go along with short date like that. Now semester fee and total amount will be in dollar amount. So we can just press Ctrl key and select column G as well. Now from the drop down, let's choose currency, or we can choose accounting as well. You can choose that from this button. From the drop down, you can choose different types of currency. Now this value is for percentage and this is thousand separator, which helps us to put comma after every 1000 values. Coming back to column F, this represents number. For that, let's choose number and we can see there are decimal numbers. Let's decrease the decimal numbers like that. You can even increase decimal number from this as well. Note that the dates here are in format of month first, then date, and finally year value, which is the standard for US. You can change the format to custom using Ctrl 1, where we get the format cells window, where we can choose different set of values or formatting styles for different categories. Due to changing formats, our column widths have changed. So let's select all of them and double click and we can see the column headers in a better way. Now clipboard category is one of the most basic categories in Excel. You can use cut, copy, format painter and paste here. If you select B7 to G7 and use cut or use Ctrl X from your keyboard, select B12 to use Ctrl V to paste it here. Or we can just copy it using Ctrl C to copy this selection, or we can just click on this icon. Now select B7 and use Ctrl V to paste. And we can see a context menu for paste special. Let's escape that. There we are. Let's delete that right now. Now, if we select first name and click on Format Painter, let's click on B8 and we can see that Lucy is now bold with a different fill color and also center aligned. Let's undo that and use escape. Now let's see how paste special works. Let's click on B4 and use copy. Now we can see that paste button is active now. Click on B13 and choose the drop down within the paste. As we hover around the buttons, we can see different types of paste options. You can choose any of them according to your convenience. Since we won't be needing that, let's press escape button to unselect our selection. And now let's increase our column headers into a higher font size to 12. Let's click on column B to G and double click. It looks better, right? Now let's complete the calculation of our total amount. If we copy using Ctrl C of the value G5 and go to G6 to paste it using Ctrl V, we can see that the formula is getting changed. It is happening due to cell referencing. Now we can try another method to copy the formula. We can use fill handle icon, which is the plus icon on the bottom right corner, and drag it till we want the formula to be copied. There we are. The formula is getting updated, right? There is another method. As we see the plus sign on the bottom right corner, we can just double click on it using the left button of your mouse. Now let's add style for our title. Click on B2 and from the styles category, click on cell styles. And from the titles and headings, choose heading 2. Now the font size is 13. Let's do a higher font, 14. There we are. Now the styles category has two other options as well, which is format as table. We will show format as table when we will discuss inserting table in the insert tab right after discussing the formulas tab. And for conditional formatting, let's move into another sheet. We will copy the sheet there. For that, let's learn how to copy the sheet. Right click on the sheet name and here we can see a lot of options. If you insert, a new sheet will be inserted. Delete, we have shown previously. Renaming will just help you to rename it, which you can do double clicking on the name. Move and copy. Now we can see there is a new window. If we click on create a copy and choose move to end, okay, we can see another sheet is ready with the name of dataset. The name is similar, only the difference is the 2. Let's change the name to conditional formatting. Don't forget to press enter, otherwise your name won't be saved. Now right clicking on it, you can see code or product sheet or even choose tab color. If we choose the colors, we can see that there is gradient of the corresponding colors. You can even hide sheets like that and right click on them, unhide. Okay, it's unhidden, right? And you can select all sheets or link to different sheets from here. We will be working along the same dataset throughout the video, so copying worksheet will come in handy. Now, let me tell you a magical feature. We can work on multiple sheets all together by selecting them simultaneously. Pressing Ctrl if we select all the sheets, we can work on them simultaneously. Now here, let's select column A and pressing and Ctrl column H. Now let's change their width to 3 inches or 26 pixels. Now if we deselect them using Ctrl, from conditional formatting sheet, if we go to dataset sheet, it works the same way. Magic, right? Now let's move back to our conditional formatting sheet. Here, let's try conditional formatting. Now conditional formatting is to format cells based on particular condition. Let's select column E as in E5 to E11. Now from the conditional formatting drop-down, go along with highlight cell rules. Here, let's try greater than. Here, let's go along with greater than 340. and the format type will be green fill with dark green text. Okay. We can see the preview from here. The values that have the fees greater than 340 are highlighted with the format we just instructed the feature. Now let's try for column F or F5 to F11. Now let's try top to bottom rules. Here let's try top 10%. So top 10% will be added with light red fill with dark red text. We are already seeing the preview. The total values are considered along with their 10% and the top 10% value adds up to 9. Okay, now let's try for G5 to G11, conditional formatting and data bars. As we can see, there are two sections, gradient fill and solid fill. Gradient fill gives us different colors as in the greater value or less values. Or we can choose solid fill as well. Let's try this one in gradient fill. For understanding rest of the features, let's remove conditional formatting from E column and F column. Go to conditional formatting drop-down and here choose clear rules. Clear rules from selected cells. Now in E5 to E11, conditional formatting, color scales will give us different colors. Here, we can see the highest value is denoted with red color and the lowest value is denoted with dark green color. And the shade changes according to the level of number, higher to lower. Now for column F5 to F11, we're going to discuss an interesting conditional formatting, which is icon sets. If we choose indicators, we can see that the lowest two values are shown with red colors and the highest two values are shown with green color. The mid three numbers are shown with yellow color flags. By far, Excel might have been looking really exciting to you, but truth to be told, this is just the beginner level of excitement. Now you must have noticed there are two more options within conditional formatting. New rule is for complex criteria and to format the cell values according to them. And manage rules is for all the rules or conditional formatting we have used so far and we can edit or change or duplicate from here. Every time we're selecting a range, this little icon might be troubling you. That what is this? This is quick analysis. If we click on it, we can format it directly from here. We can insert charts, totals, tables, or sparklines from it. Now let's discuss the cells category. Here you can insert cells, rows, columns manually from this. You can even insert sheet from here. Delete drop-down gets us deleting cells or rows or column or even sheet. Format is to format specific cells. We can change manually its height or autofit or column width or even the visibility of it. You can even lock cell using this feature as well. In a new worksheet of our dataset, now we will discuss the editing group. Here, if we click on G12 and from the editing group, click on this icon, which is AutoSum. You can press Alt plus equals sign for that as well. Pressing on that, you can see that it's automatically showing us to sum. Now, if we accept the command, press enter. Now we can see the total amount. Now, if we select F12, click on the AutoSum drop down, we can see there is average as well. Clicking on it, we will get the average number of all the semester numbers. Same goes for maximum or minimum or even count numbers. There we are. The maximum value of all the semester fees is $370. Now if we go back to B12 and click on the fill drop down and press down, we can see that it gives us the same value, which is B11. Now if we select H5 and from the fill option click on right, we can see that the total amount formula is copied here according to the reference previously given. Let's undo the actions using Ctrl Z. We can do that from this icon or even from the drop down. Choose exactly which actions we want to undo. Escape. Now rest of the features within fill are pretty much the same. Let's look at how to use series feature. For that, insert a column before column B. Now here, let's type 1. Now select B5 and from the fill drop-down click Series. Now series in columns, type linear, step value, let's say 5, stop value will be 60. Okay, now we can see that with the interval of 5, we are getting all the serial numbers. From the fill drop-down, Justify can help us to justify the text within a cell. Now using flash fill, we can recognize a pattern and copy the cell values according to that. For example, if we insert a column beside E, and here, let's say we want the full names of all the students. Let's double click on this. Now, if we select E6 and from the fill drop-down click on flash fill, we can see that along with our column header, all the names are added side by side. Let's delete this new column like that. And for the serial numbers, we can try using clear feature. Let's click on B12 to B16 and from the clear drop down, we can clear formats or contents or hyperlinks. Let's clean all of it. It will remove formats, values, data or anything you want to clear. If we select this column or this range, which is C4 to C11, and from the sort and filter drop down, click sort A to Z. We can see that it's asking us whether we want to expand selection. If we expand selection, the entire records will be sorted based on the numbers. If not, we will get the sorted value of the first name only. Let's go along with expand the selection. We can see that first name range is sorted based on A to Z. Now let's undo that using Ctrl Z. Now let's try using total amount. Sort and filter, sort smallest to largest. Expand the selection. Now we can see the records based on total amount. Let's undo the action using Ctrl Z. Now we can filter records based on a specific criteria. Let's say we want to filter based on admission date. Select E4 to E11. Now from sort and filter drop down, click filter. Now we can see that there are 3 types of dates based on different months. If we click on select on, it will get deselected and let's go along with March only. Okay, now we can see the records of the students that got admitted within the March 1st. Now let's undo that to get our original data set back. Here, find and select drop-down helps us with a lot of features. For find feature, we need to first select our data set. Now click on find. Now let's say we want to look out for Matthews. Find all. Now we can see there are 2 values named Matthews. One is in row number 6, another is in row number 11. Now if we want to replace it, we can just go to Replace tab and we can see that find what is already formatted according to our previous value. Now let's say replace with Darwin. Replace all. Now we can see that a dialog box is here which is confirming that Excel has made 2 replacements and we can see that row 6 and 11 last names are converted into Darwin from Matthews. Let's close it. Now we can see that there is go to and go to special. Go to is basically finding a reference. Now interesting part is go to special. If we click on constants and let's say we want to find all the numbers within our data set, we can just click on that and OK. So here we can see all the numbers within our data set. As you can see, there are many other options as well. Clicking on each of them, you can directly get the cells selected without selecting them manually. Cancel. As you can see, there are many more options, which is to find and select formulas or notes or conditional formatting that we previously discussed, constants, data validation, etc. These are basically for advanced use. You can deselect the previous selection by clicking on anywhere else. The analysis group will enable a data section to get a set of analyses. If we select on our data set and click on Analyze Data, we can see in the right side of our screen, there are pivot table, chart, pivot chart, or chart. You can get any kind of analysis using this. Let's close this section. Add-ins help us with built-in or imported features accessible to Excel. After discussion on Home tab, we will shift to Formulas tab. Now before discussing the formulas or functions, let's try to make absolute referencing clear to you. For that, we have created times table with absolute referencing and mixed referencing. In J5, for times table, our formula will be J4 multiplied by I5. Enter. Now it's easy, right? Now if we use fill handle or double click on the bottom right corner, we can see that the formula is copied according to cell reference. But for all of these, we want these values to be multiplied with this value only. So we need to make J4 constant for all the formulas. Let's edit the formula. Select J4 and use keyboard F4 or function 4 key to make it absolute. Note that making it absolute means to lock column reference and the row reference. As visual, we can see column number and row number both are started along with dollar signs. You can manually type these dollar signs as well. We can see that each of the values are multiplied with 1. Now we can say that this column is for these 4 values multiplied with 2. Now if we select all of them and drag the fill handle tool to column L, we can see that due to using J4 as absolute referencing, it doesn't change. But we want that to change. For that, let's try mixed referencing. Equals asterisk I11. Now in J10, if we use F4 once, it's absolute. If we press on F4 again, we can see that column J is no longer absolute, but row 10 is. This way it will help us in case the formula is copied right side. Now if we press our function 4 or F4 key for the third time, now we can see that our column reference is constant since the dollar sign is before column reference and row number is no longer constant. Pressing key F4 again for the fourth time, we can see that it's back to our initial state. You can change absolute referencing like that. Let's make our row constant again. Enter. Now double click on it and like that. Now we can see that all the values are changed according to our requirement. Now this process of absolute referencing corresponding to a column or a row is called mixed referencing. Now let's dive into some of the mathematical functions. First, let's try absolute function equals ABS, and you can see that Excel is suggesting us possible functions. If we use tab key, it will be selected. Now absolute on, let's say, L12. Enter. Now we can see that the absolute value of minus 12, which is 12, is added here. Now for sine function, to get the sine value, tab, let's say we want the sine for L14. Enter. So it's negative value. Now for square root function, we can just try SQRT, tab, let's go along with enter. Remainder function will get us the remainder value and it works based on mod function, tab. Now you can see that it's asking for a number. Let's give a number which is 331.50, comma. Now our divisor will be 8, closing parenthesis, enter. Now we can see that the remainder value is 3.50. Have you lost the track of which formula we used for where? Worry not. Let's use formula text function so that it's easier for you to understand what is the formula we used. Enter. Now you can see the formula we used here. If we double click on the bottom right corner, there we are. Now apart from these basic mathematical functions, we can see that formulas tab gives us function library, which gives us AutoSum, recently used, financial, logical, text, date and time, etc., and many more types of functions. Now we will explain some of the most used ones. Before that, let's discuss comparison operator. If we type equals 5 is greater than 8, which is not true, enter, it will show us. Let's try formula text, tab, references, case 16, enter. Now if we try it otherwise, which is less than, which is true, it gives us the result that it's true. Now a little practice for you. Here you can see that there is a practice section for you. Our criteria are number will be $320 and divisor will be 7.0. Now you need to make sure you get the remainder here in K20 and let us know what formula you're going to use in the comment section. In this worksheet, we will discuss text, date and time related functions. Initially, let's try text. Let's say we want to merge first name and last name. For that, let's try concatenate function first. Concatenate, tab. So our text 1 will be B5, which is Carla, comma, C5. Closing parenthesis, enter. Now we can see that both first name and last name are added, but there are no spaces. For spaces, let's try the same function in a different format. Text 1 will be B5, comma, add quotation mark, add one space. You can add multiple spaces as well. Let's add 2 additional spaces, quotation mark, close, comma, then Stevens or C5, closing parenthesis, enter. Now we can see that there are 3 spaces between both these names. Now what does trimming do as a function? Let's try it. Trim, tab, let's take F9, which is the result of our concatenate function, as reference text. Closing parenthesis, enter. Now we can see that the additional spaces are trimmed here and it's showing just as a name is supposed to be. Now uppercase and lowercase functions are just like you're expecting. Use upper and let's choose reference text as F10, closing parenthesis, enter. Yes, it's for adding them in uppercase. Lower is for turning them into lowercase, obviously. F11 as reference text. There we are. Now what does proper function do? Proper function will turn the entire text into the proper format, which is first letter of a word is capitalized. There we are. Now let's say we want to calculate how many letters or characters are within a string. For that, you have length function, or expressed as len, tab. So our reference is F13, closing parenthesis, enter. So we can say that there are 13 characters within Carla Stevens, their full name. Let's try the same formula with the reference of Carla Stevens without any spaces. Now we can see there are 1 less. It's due to the space. Now to keep track on the formula, let me help you with formula text. Let's double click on the bottom right corner. There we go. Now let's start our discussion with date function and time function. Here we have sample data from seconds to year. Now for date, we need date function, tab, and for year value, let's choose G21, comma, month value will be G20, comma, and day value will be G19, closing parenthesis, enter. Date value function will count total days from 1 January 1990, which is the starting date of Microsoft Excel, till given date, and will show you the result. So our given date here will be the date we got as our answer before. Double quotation mark. Make sure to add quotation mark around your date, otherwise it will show you error. So total days are 45,005 days. Now for time function, you can see the hour reference is G18, minute is G17, then second reference is G16, closing parenthesis, enter. So here is our time according to our given values. Now time value works pretty much like date value, only the reference here will be the time. Let's use the previous one that we calculated just now. Double quotation mark, closing parenthesis, enter. This value is in a fraction of total 24 hours from 12 am. Now function is one of the most exciting. You don't have to add any sort of references. It will show you the date and time of the current date. So does today. Only today gives us the date value, whereas now gives us both date and time. There we are. It's easy, right? In this worksheet, we will discuss 3 of logical functions in Excel. Those are if function, and function, then IFERROR function. First, let's see how the syntax of if function works. Here we can see that it checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another if value is false. Let's try that. Here our logical test will be if G5, which is our total amount of Carla, is greater than 2000. So this is our logical test. Now value if true will be high, considering high payment. Now value if false will be obviously opposite to high, which is low. Now closing parenthesis, enter. Here use fill handle to drag it till B16. So we get the high or low amount for each of the students. Now let's try nested if. Nested if means having multiple if functions, one within each other. Let's try to see how that looks. If tab, our first logical test will be if G5 is greater than 2100. Then it will show us high, which is value if true. Now for value if false, we will go to another if function. Tab, here logical test will be if G5 is less than 1500. If so, value if true will be low. Now value if false, which is G5 is not less than 1500 but is less than 2100. So value if false will be medium, as in medium payment. Closing parenthesis, first one for our second if function. Now the last one for our first if function. Enter. Now we can see that Carla Stevens' total amount is not greater than 2100 but it's greater than 1500. Let's use fill handle or double click on the bottom right corner. Now you can see that clicking on the cells, it's showing us hashtag name question mark. And if we hover our cursor here, we can see that this formula contains unrecognized text. From the drop down, we can see that it's invalid name error. Now, we will discuss about this error a little bit later when we are discussing IFERROR function. Stay tuned till that. Now, time for AND function. Now, how to use AND function in Excel? Let's try that. So the syntax will allow us to match different logical conditions. So our first logical condition will be if E5 is greater than 340, and our next logical will be if F5 is greater than 5. Closing parenthesis, enter. So we can see that for Carla Stevens, both these criteria are true. If we double click on the bottom right corner, we can see that Anthony Hopper and Lucy Brown don't have semester fee greater than $340. Neither they have their semester number greater than 5. Now, time for the IFERROR function. You had been waiting for this function since the error came up, right? Let's try to see what's the deal. Let's start with IFERROR. Now, IFERROR function will return us a corresponding value if an error is found. If not, it will return the exact same value it was before. Tab. Now our value, let's say this one, C12, comma, value if error. Now name error will be due to double quotation marks. You might have noticed that beforehand, every time we typed strings, we have added double quotation mark. If there is a name error, there must be something wrong within your double quotation mark command. Enter. Now let's double click on the bottom right corner. There we can see that both the errors are showing. Check the double quotation mark or the exact value is showing. Now what is happening here? What is the deal with double quotation mark? For that, let's try to see what were the formulas. Let's use fill handle to drag it till there. All of them are not visible, right? Let's try some old school method. Ctrl X to cut, Ctrl V to paste, Ctrl X to cut, Ctrl V to paste. Now it's easy for us to understand, right? Now as you can see in the nested if formula, we have double quotation mark for low and medium, which is why our results are showing medium, medium and low. But high is not added within the syntax along with double quotation mark, which is why the values whenever high it's showing us error. Now if we change that using double quotation mark like that and double click on the bottom right corner, now it's corrected, right? We have already seen the uses of logical functions. Now it's time for statistical functions. It involves count functions. First we will discuss some of the mostly used count functions, then we will merge count, sum and average with logical functions. Let's see how that happens. First, let's say we want to count the total number of semester fees added here. So let's try count, enter. So we can see that there are 7 records under semester fees. Now let's say we want to get the number of texts added here. We need to use count A for that. Tab C5 to C11, enter. Now let's say we want to figure out that how many blank cells are there within our selected cell range. For that we need to use countBlank function, B5 to B11 as our range. Now for your convenience, formula text. Let's use fill handle to drag it till 16th row. Now we can easily understand. Note that count A will count text, number and everything it gets apart from blank cells. But count function only works on number. Now how can we use these statistical functions along with our logical functions? Let's try to get single criterion functions. One of them is COUNTIF. Tab. Here our range is F5 to F11. Now as our range goes, we need to add a criteria. We need to find the number of records or data available within our range which is equal to 6. Closing parenthesis, enter. So there are 2 6 within the selected cell range. Let's use formula text here. Now it's easy for us to understand. Now this function covers single criterion. What if we have multiple criterion? For that, we can use COUNTIFS function. Here we have already shown the COUNTIFS answer. For your convenience, we can just add formula text here. Now we can see that first criteria is added just as we mentioned for single criterion. The next criteria adds as criteria range 2, which is C5 to C11, and the criteria 2 has to be equals to Parker. And we can see within the range there is only one Parker, which is why the answer will be 1. Note that due to using text value, we need to add double quotation mark around it. Now you can see a small triangle on the top left corner for both these cells. If we click on it, inconsistent formula. It's due to the difference of formula from the left cell. Let's ignore it. Ignore it as well. Now we will discuss how SUMIF, average if works for single criterion and SUMIFs, average ifs work for multiple criteria. So SUMIF, tab, our range is E5 to E11. Now our criteria will be greater than 340. Note that using this criteria as comparison operator, we need to use double quotation mark as well. Now the final part, that what do we want to sum if the criteria is met? Now total amount, which is G5 to G11. Closing parenthesis, enter. Same goes for average if. Let's keep the criteria range and average range same. So our range will be E5 to E11. Criteria, double quotation mark, 340, double quotation end, and average range will be total amount, which is G5 to G11. Closing parenthesis, enter. Let's double click on the bottom right corner. So this is how we can use single criterion functions for our convenience. Let's click on both of them and ignore error. We have discussed this just now. And these two are for SUMIFs and AVERAGEIFs. As the formula goes, we can see our first argument is the sum range that was used as the latter stage within our single criterion function. And then our first criteria range, then the criteria, then our second criteria range, which is F5 to F11, that has to be greater than 6. The criteria range are kept equal for your convenience. Let's click on that and ignore error as well. Now for a student, you can use COUNTIF or COUNTIFS function like which are the courses that you got specific scores in. And for official purposes, you can just add criteria as salary or joining date, etc. etc. So it's quite featureful, right? Let's move on to our next worksheet. In this worksheet, the functions we are going to discuss are not only mostly used, they are mostly confusing as well. First, let's use match function. As you can see, there is a column for criteria, and we will show you the results using the functions here and show the formulas here. Let's try match function first. Now, we can see that match function returns the relative position of an item in an array that matches specified value in a specified order. Tab. So our lookup value is as the criteria. Lookup array is where to look from. So we will look for this criteria from F5 to F9, comma. Now match type is either less than, exact match or greater than. For now, we will use 0 for exact match. You can use 1 or -1 for less than or greater than in order to get some advanced uses. Closing parenthesis, enter. Now we will discuss index function. Note that index function returns the value or reference of the cell at the intersection of a particular row and number in a given range. And index function works as pretty much opposite to match function. Let's see how does it happen. So our array here will be F5 to F9, same as match, and for row number we will use the criteria. Criteria, which is number 3, denotes the row number within the array, which is the third record, and the answer here is 5. In the match function, we saw that for the criteria 5 within the range, it showed us 3 as in the row number 3. Now, let's go into another dimension, which is the lookup functions. Functions because lookup has lookup function, then HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP. We will discuss all of them. First, let's try lookup function. Now lookup function works on 2-column array. For our lookup value, let's use criteria or B14, which is 350 to look from, and for array where we want to look up the value 350 is E5 to F9. Adding F9 means we want to look up these values and get the results of semester number. Closing parenthesis, enter. So we can see that for semester fee 350, our semester number is 6 from the dataset, but our result is showing us 4. So it's an error, right? It's the limitation of lookup function. Now if we select E4 to E9 and sort it from smallest to largest and expand selection, now we can see that the result works absolutely correct. It happens because lookup function can't work with unsorted dataset. Now let's try HLOOKUP function. HLOOKUP function works for horizontal dataset, which is why we have transferred our dataset into horizontal orientation. So our lookup value will be Lucy or B15, comma, table array will be F13 to G15, comma, row index number is the row number of our selected dataset. So row 1 is first name, row 2 is last name, and row 3 is total amount. Since we want total amount, so let's go along with 3. For range lookup, we will use either approximate match or exact match. Let's go along with approximate match for now. You can type true manually or even choose tab to select true, closing parenthesis, enter. Now notice that Lucy is not within our selected criteria, but we got the result anyways. It's because we used approximate match. Now let's try using exact match. For that, let's insert another row here, and here let's type Bob here, and the function will be the same. Only the lookup value will be different, which is B16 or Bob. Table array will be F13 to G15, row index number is 3, and range lookup type will be false or exact match. Closing parenthesis, enter. Now we can see that the total amount for Bob is $2,394. Now let's try VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP is one of the mostly used functions in Excel. As complicated as VLOOKUP can be used, it's that much featureful as well. Tab, our lookup value will be 320. Table array will be from E5 to G9. Column index is similar to row index, which is why column 1 is semester fees, column 2 semester number, and column 3 as total amount. For total amount, let's go along with 3. And approximate match and exact match works the same way as HLOOKUP function. Let's go along with false or exact match. Tab, enter. So we can see that for semester fee $320, total amount is $1,600. Now how can we say that VLOOKUP will work on unsorted dataset? For that, let's insert another row, and here let's type Anthony, and our formula will be just the same as before. Only lookup value will be Anthony or B18. Table array will be B5 to G9. Here column index number will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for total amount 6, and range lookup exact match. We can also use 0 instead of typing or selecting true or false. Closing parenthesis, enter. So we can see that for Anthony total amount is $1,600. Now let's try approximate match for VLOOKUP function. Tab, lookup value is 380 or B19. Now notice that 380 is not within the semester fees dataset. So how are we gonna look up for this? Let's select E5 to G9, column index 3. Range lookup is approximate match. This is where VLOOKUP approximate match differs and will get you a result even if your value doesn't match exact. Use true or 1 for this. Closing parenthesis, enter. So we can see that in spite of 380 or the criteria not being in our dataset, it's getting us the result that closely matches within the dataset, $370, and total amount is corresponding to that, which is $2,220. Now we will not forget that you are losing track of the formulas. Let's help you with formula text again. There we are, and double click on the bottom right corner. Now it's easier for us to understand. Let's double click here to autofit. Here, let's go to Home tab to choose No Fill. There we are. Now you need to practice all the functions we discussed here, since these are really important for Excel. For you, we have added a practice section. There we are. So the criteria you're going to cover is last name as Hopper from this dataset. And the objective of your practice will be to find out admission date and semester number using these 5 types of formula. Let us know the formula you are using and comment to us. We will let you know whether your formula is correct or not. Enough about functions. Now let's talk about other groups. We can see that the next group is for defined names. We can name our cell references. Like if we click on B5, instead of B5, we can choose some other name. Let's say name 1. Enter. Or we can just select this entire cell range and rename them from name box to first. Enter. Or we can go to define name. If we use define name, let's choose a different reference first. C4 to C9. And our name will be last name. Note that you need to add any special character or anything that helps you to understand spaces in between words, since spaces are not recognized in naming ranges. Okay, now if we select C4 to C9, we can see last name here automatically. Now let's try create from selection feature. For that, let's select D4 to G9 and click on create from selection. Here we can see that it will create names directly from the selection. Let's uncheck left column and our names will be created based on the top rows of selection. Okay. Now, if we select D4 to D9, we can see that it's still showing us D4. Now, if we select this, now we get admission date. Now, we can see all of them from Name Manager button. Here, you can see that all the values that we added, name 1 for Lucy that we initially talked about, then first for our first column, then all the namings one by one, and it's sorted alphabetically. You can even use the names in formula from here. If we click on here, or let's say here, if we click on equal, then use in formula, let's say semester fees multiplied by 2. Now we can see that it's automatically getting us the 5 records and semester fees multiplied by 2. So it's so convenient, right? Let's delete that. Next up is formula auditing group. Here, trace precedence, trace dependence are for tracing these values, or we can remove arrows from a selected cell range. We can show formula. If we click on it, we can see that all the values we previously discussed are showing us not the results, rather the formulas. If we click on it again, it will move back to the previous form. Error checking will check whether there are any errors within the dataset, or even we can trace the error. Now if we click on any of the values, let's say this one, and we can evaluate the formula. Evaluate formula will let us know each of the values individually. If we click on evaluate, we can see that instead of B17, it's showing us 320. Evaluate will show us the results. In cases of long formulas, evaluate formula feature really helps us a big time. Next calculation group is basically for automatic calculation or not. Here we can select automatic or automatic except for data tables or manual. Here we can get calculate now or even a calculate sheet option. Next up is our Insert tab. Here we can see there are a lot of graphics and options available. First, let's talk about tables. Here we have created a new worksheet for you so that we can easily discuss about tables and more features within Insert tab. Now if we click on the entire data set and from the tables group, if we click on table, we can see that there is a dialog box asking us to confirm our range and whether our top row can be labeled as column headers. If we click on OK, we can see that our data set is converted into a table. If we undo the action and use Ctrl T from the keyboard, we get the same action. Now if we click on the rows and double click like that, it's out of it. And a different fill color. Let's say this one. Now if we select any cell among our table, we can see that there is an additional tab here which is called Table Design. If we go here, we can see there are properties, tools, external table data, styles, etc. options. Now if we choose our entire range and from these styles we can see there are lots of styles available. As we hover around templates, we can see many of them. Let's go along with this one. See, now it's changed according to the styles template. We can choose table styles option. If you don't want the arrows, you can just uncheck the button and the filter option will be disabled. Let's click on it again. And here from the tools group, we can insert slicer or even convert the table into range like before. Yes. Now it's no longer table, and as you can see, table design tab is no longer active. You may have noticed that as we converted our table into range, our tab has automatically shifted back to home tab. It's a default set by Excel that home tab should be the default tab for all the Excel files. Let's go to Insert tab again. Now let's try Pivot Table. If we select B4 to G8 and click on this icon, we can see that pivot table, range and selection is asking to be confirmed here. Since we had converted this data set as tables, it's named as tables B4 to G8. We can choose the pivot table to be opened in another worksheet. We can even choose that to be in the existing worksheet. For that, we need to indicate the location where we want. Let's say B10. Okay. Now you can see that in the right side of the screen there is Pivot Table Fields option. From the fields, we can see that all the column headers are added here as options, and there are 4 fields, which are filters, columns, rows, and values. If we choose semester fees as rows, we can see that row labels are added according to semester fees. And if we remove it here and choose semester number, we can see the numbers here. Let's choose the total amount as values. So here we go with semester fees as rows and total amount as values. Now let's select first name as columns. Now we can see that each of the names here are added as rows, whereas the semester numbers are here as columns. Now if we select them like that and double click here, it's out of it. Just as we noticed in time of table, if we click on it, we can see that there are new 2 tabs, which are Pivot Table Analyze and Design. If we click on Pivot Table Analyze, we can see that there are a lot of analyzing options that you can only get using Pivot Table. And from the Design tab, you can design your pivot table. We can choose this or this, and even style options. So we can just uncheck them like that, and it will remove the header fill colors. Let's add them back again. Now you might be thinking, what will happen if we add 2 entries as one field? Let's choose admission date in columns and place admission date before first name. Now we can see that the pivot table is arranged based on months. If we click on the plus sign, we can see that there are Carla, and if we click on October, we can see that it's giving us the October total, and within October there are Anthony and Bob entries. So we can say that if we want to use pivot table for a wholesome analyze and calculation, we can easily just do that. All we need is to just place our column headers in the appropriate fields. Now if we go back to our Insert tab and choose Illustrations, we can see that there are a lot of options. We can insert pictures from this device or web or stock images, or even different types of shapes. They are classified with respect to lines, rectangles, basic shapes, etc. Let's choose this one, and we can see a plus sign on our screen. If we click our mouse and keep pressing till the shape we received, we can see the shape here. Here we can see that we are redirected to a new tab, which is Shape Format. And here we can choose different styles. Let's say this. Even we can choose different types of fill. Outline as, let's say, no outline. Shape effects as 3D, 2D, as you want, or even text if you want that within your shape. And there are many more options: size, arranging, alignment, rotate, etc. There are icons, 3D models, smart art templates as well. If we click here, we can see there are a lot of templates that allows us to add different types of tables, chart as graphic options. We can see a smart art graphics, and we can edit that according to our convenience. Now if we move back to Insert tab, we can see there are many more options. For that, let's switch to a new worksheet. Enough about calculations and numbers. Let's look at some colors. Yes, now we are going to discuss charts group. Here, if we select our B column for first name, Control then E column for semester fees and total amounts, and from the charts group, click on column and bar drop down. Let's choose 2D column. As we can see, there are semester fees as blue color, and as orange there is total amount. Here we can change the chart title. Clicking on it, let's type tracker chart. And as you can see, there are additional icons. This is for chart elements. If we click on here, we can add axis titles. Selecting data labels will add the exact values above the columns. Data table is for the exact same values from the dataset. Grid lines, it will be visual on blank background. Now if you select them again, and from the Insert tab choose 2D bar, we can see that there is a significant change. Although it's just vertical alignment and horizontal alignment, we can see that the semester fees are differing, which we were not able to differ in column bar. Looking at the ribbon, you can see that charts enable two of the new tabs for us as well. We can design chart using these templates, or even we can change colors from these palettes or change data. From the Format tab, we can just change the text, color, size, shape, etc. Let's remove all of them and let's look at some other charts. Make sure to select your cell range so that it's easier to insert charts. Now let's try 2D lines. Here we can see that blue color is for semester fees and orange is for total amount. Now if we select first name and total amount, and from the Insert tab, click on Pie, we can see that total amount is distributed according to the names, and it's showing us along with the datasets value of total amount. Now we will discuss scatter plot and combo. Select B4 to B8, E4 to E8 and G4 to G8. Insert tab, choose scatter, and you can see that each of the values are added with scatter point. Now if we use combo for the same dataset, this is combo chart. Let's click on that. Here we can see that using columns it's showing us semester fees, and using line it's showing us total amount. Right click on it. Clicking on different options here, we can change axis and many more options. These are for advanced use. Now let's go back to our Insert tab, and here we can see Maps group, which can enable us locations if our dataset gives us a specific location. Pivot charts is to graphically summarize data and explore complicated data. 3D map helps us to point the places within a 3D map. Now Sparklines group is quite interesting. If we click on H5 and choose line, let's select data range as G5 to G8 and location range as H5. We can see that there is a tiny line here. If we extend that like that, it will show us a graph of 4 of these values. Now here there are column sparkline, win-loss sparkline, etc. You can try all of them and let us know how that experience goes for you. From the filters group, you can add slicer to filter your data more conveniently. Timeline feature works along with date distribution for a dataset. Links are to add a specific link to your dataset so that we can quickly access to web pages or files. Hyperlinks can also take you to places in your document. Comments is to insert comments. Let's say here, selecting on that, we can create a comment. Insert tab. Okay. Here we can see that there is an icon which is denoting that there is a comment. We can add text box or header footer for our workbook as well. We can also add word art, signature line, or even specific objects. In terms of symbol, we can say that we can add different types of mathematical equations and many more options from this feature. And from symbol, we can see that there are a whole lot of font styles, and we can add different types of subsets based on those fonts. As calibri and geometric shapes, we can see these symbols are available here. If we click on that and choose insert, we can see that our cell is inserted with the symbol. If we click on another one, click on insert, it will be inserted beside that. Close, and we can receive them side by side. So far we have discussed calculations, formulas, charts, etc. most. Now it's time for us to look at the core features of Excel. For that, let's go to Data tab. Among the 8 groups, we can see that Data Tools is one of them. It's basically mostly used among all these groups. Let's see what Text to Columns feature does. For that, let's select our date range, which is D5 to D10. Now let's say we want to separate the month value, date value, and year value. For that, let's click on Text to Columns first. Here we need to divide them using the / as delimiter. So there we go with the choice of delimited. Next, note that this is the first step among 3 of them. So this is the second step. Here we need to choose delimiter as other. If it's not selected and tab is chosen, you need to choose other and here type /. As you can see, the data preview is already showing us our result. Click on Next. Here we need to choose our destination. Note that column data format can be edited as well. Our destination here will be B14. There we can see our data preview. Finish. Do you want to replace it? Okay. Now we can see that all the month value, day value and year values are added here according to our convenience. Next up, Flash Fill. Flash Fill has been discussed in Home tab. Let's refresh that here. In H5, let's type 100. In H6, let's type 394. Let's double click here to make sure it's visible. Now as we go to H7, if we click on Flash Fill, we can see all the values that is being shown, the last 3 digits within the total amount range, since Flash Fill recognized the pattern from the 2 given datasets. Now let's undo the action using Ctrl Z. There we are. For our next feature, we can just click on the date again, which is D5 to D10, and click on Remove Duplicates. Now we can see that it's asking us whether to expand the selection to apply it for the entire record or continue with the current selection. Let's go along with that and remove duplicates. So it's asking us to confirm that our columns to remove duplicates is from admission date or not. Okay, 3 duplicate values found and removed. Here we can see that only the unique values remain. Let's use Ctrl Z to undo the action. Now let's discuss one of the most interesting feature in Excel, Data Validation Tool. Here in G12, we need a first name. Based on that, G13 has a formula with VLOOKUP to return semester number with a name and no data if no name is found. We will add names in the form of drop-down list here. Select G12, go to Data Validation, and here from the Allow drop-down we can see that data validation can be quite featureful for Excel. It works with time, list, decimal, whole number, and so on. For now, since we have a list of first name, let's go along with list. As for source, our source will be B5 to B10. Okay. As you can see within the screen that a drop-down has been added beside our cell. Clicking on that, we get all these 6 first names. Let's select Bob. So Bob has semester number 7. If we choose Carla, we can see 6. And if we choose Lucy, we can see 4. Magical, right? Next up is the Consolidation Tool. Before discussing what consolidation does, let's see the action without using consolidation. First, in F17, let's get references from other sheets. Let's say our previous sheet, text date time, and choose F14. Enter. In F18 here, let's go to count sheet and select F14 again. And in F19, let's go along with match index lookup name sheet and select F14 as well. As you can see, all of them are in number format. Now let's add all of them using alter equal. We have previously discussed that this is the AutoSum shortcut. So we can sum all of them and we get a total of 2114. Now we can do the same task without adding them manually one by one and summing afterwards. We can do that using Consolidation Tool. Now let's click on G17 and click on Consolidation. Now consolidate function according to your choice. Let's go along with sum. For reference, click on text date time again. F14, add. Now count. You can see that F14 is already selected. Add. Now for match index lookup name sheet, F14 is selected. Add. Okay. Now we can see that we're getting the same value with less work. And for relationships, we can create or edit relationships from sheets. And this one helps us to use Power Pivot window. Sort and filter tasks are pretty much similar to the ones we discussed for Home tab. Now advanced filter helps you with criteria and you can select a location to filter. Let's click on C4 to D10 and click on advanced filter. Here we can see that we can copy the filtered data into another location and we can choose a criteria for advanced filter. Now get and transform data is basically for data import. This one is for data import from text or CSV file from web, and this one is from table to range. If we select our table or a cell range, this icon will redirect us to Power Pivot. Now you need to make sure that your selected range is a table or named range or array. If not, Power Query will automatically transform it into a table. You can remove a column, modify a data type, or merge tables to meet your needs. You can also load your query into Excel to create charts and reports. Finally, you can update the data from time to time. Next up, Queries and Connections group have some extended features from the Power Query we mentioned before. Data types can enlist your dataset as stocks or currencies. Now for Forecast group, it helps us with forecasting analysis with what-if analysis or forecast sheets. And Outline group helps us to group, ungroup, or get subtotal. And finally, Analysis group helps us with data analysis. If we click on it, we can see that there are a lot of analysis tools that helps us with analysis. So far we have covered mostly used features, formula, function, and tools. Now let's look at some additional options. For that, let's start with View tab. Here Sheet View is for working in group and enable every user to work without disturbing each other. Workbook Views has Normal, which is the current visual style. Page Break Preview will add dotted lines to your worksheet. And Page Layout will help us to understand the measurement in inches. Custom Views helps us to choose from some pre-selected view settings. Next, Show Group helps us with navigation. If we look closely, we can see that on the right side of our screen, we can see all of the worksheets we have used so far. So we can just navigate through these options. Note that we can also navigate through worksheets using these icons. If we right click on any of them, we can see all the worksheets present here. If we click on it and press OK, we will be redirected to our worksheet. Using the Show tab, we can also check or uncheck grid lines or formula bar or headings. Let's close this section. Since we have used Page Break Preview once, we are seeing the dotted line within our worksheet as page break. Let's use Ctrl F to get Excel options. Let's go to Advanced tab and scroll down to get display options for this worksheet. Look out for Show Page Breaks. Uncheck this. OK. Now the dotted lines are no longer within our screen. We already discussed zoom in the status bar. You can do it from here in a more purpose-fulfilling way. Now Window Group has features to add new window or arrange all the existing windows. Freeze Panes is for freezing column and row both, or just row or column. Let's click on B4 and click on Freeze Panes, and here we can see one vertical line and one horizontal line. If we scroll right to left, we can see that column A is constant, and if we scroll down from up, we can see that our title is constant. Rest of the cells are moving. Let's unfreeze that using the same way. These icons are for alignment and positioning of multiple windows, and that's to switch between windows. Now for Macros group, we can click on the drop down and record a macro. Let's say our macro first will be trial. Shortcut key used will be Ctrl Shift G. OK. Now in I5, let's try a formula. To type G5 multiplied by 5. Enter. Now click on the macros drop down and click on Stop Recording. As we go to cell I6, here if we press Ctrl Shift G, we can see that it gets the same type of formula without us typing manually. You can view that from View Macros option. Here is our macro. We can edit this from the Microsoft Visual Basic for applications. This is the code for our macro. Let's close the window. Now we can do it from the Developer tab as well. Here in the first group code, we can click on macros to view our macro trial. Let's close this. And you can record macro from this tab as well. We can also choose relative reference and macro security. Now first one but last one to describe among the group is Visual Basic. We can click on it to open Visual Basic for application or shortly known as VBA, or we can try Alter F11. This module is open since it's the code for our trial. Now here under the project of VBA project, we can see that all the sheets have individual event windows to add code. Let's add a new module. For that, Insert tab, click on Module. You can also insert a module using Alt I and M. Let's try a code here. Sub, since we need to add sub to start any of the code. So this is the name of our sub, CodeGen. Now as you can see, end sub is automatically added below. Let's declare A as integer. Tab, A has to be equals 5 plus 1. Now as output, we want to see that in a message box. A. Let's run the code using this button, or we can just click on F5. Here we can see there are two macro names. One for trial that we got using recording macro, and CodeGen that we just now wrote. Run. So our answer is 5 plus 1 equals 6. Okay, now let's close the window. Now in terms of more complicated code, adding functions or event, you need to save the Excel file with XLSM extension or else it won't be stored. For that you need to go to File tab, Save As, and the extension has to be Excel Macro Enabled Workbook, XLSM. Save. Now let's remove this column. Here add-ins group will get import add-ins from internet from this feature and built-in Excel add-ins. Clicking on that, we can see it enables Analysis Toolpack or Currency, Solver, VBA Toolpack, etc. COM add-ins or Component Object Model add-ins is for higher productivity tasks. Controls group has Insert dropdown. Here we can see that we can add buttons or form or checkbox as form controls, or as ActiveX controls we can add buttons, checkbox, dropdown, etc. Now rest of these help you with better designing of the Developer tab. XML adds extension and import information. Now let's go to Review tab. In our first group we can see comments. We can add new comments. Let's say clicking on that, or this one, new comment, to type highest amount. Now we can also modify the comment. Here we can modify it, or using this option we can delete or resolve thread. We can also change or shift to previous comment or next comment in terms of multiple comments, or we can just show all the comments simultaneously using this option. You can add notes as well to create new note or previous, next, or to show all the notes. Protect group helps us to protect any individual worksheet or the entire workbook. And here within a protected workbook or sheet, we can allow a specific range using this option. Proofing group helps us in writing. Language helps us in translating into various available languages. Accessibility, insights as internet connections, smart lookup, then changes if any, and using hide ink if there are any inks available. Moving on to Page Layout tab, we can see that we can change themes using that, or even that. If you don't want it, let's use Ctrl Z to change the theme. We can also change page setup, which helps us in printing. We can suit ourselves with the margin we prefer or orientation, size of the page, printing area, we can set that or clear that. Add breaks to the page. We can add backgrounds to it as well from your personal computer or online. It will be easier for you to understand if we print it and let you know. Use Ctrl P to add printing interface. Here we can choose to print active sheets or entire workbook or any selected cell range. Changing orientation is possible from here as well. Page type, margins, even scaling can be added here as well. After setting up all these, we can just click on this to print our selection. From the Page Layout tab, we can also choose Scale to Fit as width, height, or choose the Scale customization. From the Sheet options, if we extend it, we can add page, margins, header or footer. If we type here like that, we can also add footer. If we press on Ctrl P, we can see that our preview is showing page 1 and excelbasics.xlsm right here. Arrange group helps us to bring forward, shape, chart, or any of the entries, or even send backwards. From the Selection pane option, we can select all the shapes, charts, etc. all together. From the Align drop-down, we can choose to align left, center, right, top, middle, bottom, or even distribute them horizontally and vertically. It applies to shapes or charts, which is why these are not active right now. Same goes for Group and Rotate feature. Now, finally, the Help tab. Help tab helps us to use Microsoft Excel help or contact support, add feedback to forum, or even getting added with community or get Excel blogs. Now, there are a lot of miscellaneous features available. If we click on Ctrl F, we can add custom list. From the Advanced tab, let's scroll down to the bottom. Under the General section, click on Edit Custom Lists. Let's add paper, pen, pencil, eraser. Let's click on Add, then OK. Cancel. Now, if we type here, paper, pen. Now, if we select both of them and use Fill Handle, we can see that Fill Handle helps us to fill the list we added before. Another feature in Excel is pressing on Shift. We can choose multiple sheets altogether. Shift. Now, as you can see, all of them are getting selected. Now, as all of them are selected, let's type in J for Exceldemy. Now, if we press on Shift again, they will get deselected. As we move on to all the worksheets, we can see that Exceldemy is everywhere. It's because Excel can work with all the sheets based on cell reference. You can practice all of this with the help of Excel file in the description box below. Let us know if you were able to do it in the comment section. Share your suggestions and feedback as well. You can visit our website exceldemy.com and reach out to our forum for all your VBA or Excel related problems free of cost. Stay tuned by subscribing to the channel and clicking on the bell icon. Like and share the video if it helps you. Thanks for watching.